Hey, what's going on guys? Asher and John here, and today we're going to be going over how to do the Glassway Strike on Grandmaster difficulty. But before we jump into this, I ask if you want to keep up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, links, tutorials, and more, that you go and subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, let's jump into it. Oh boy, fellas, this one's a tough one. Honestly, I'd say this is probably the hardest Grandmaster Strike, as well as it's probably in the top 5 for most difficult Destiny things ever. And this is all because that final boss room is pure hell. It is just, man, it is frustrating. But that's probably why you clicked on this video, is because you want to know how to make it not as hellish. And since I completed it, I'm going to talk about the loadout my team used, as well as break down the different sections of the strike. Now for my completion, I ended up using a build that is similar to what As the Cross was using. I'll have a link in the description down below so that way you can see exactly what he was using in order to complete the Glassway. But the whole idea here is you want to have 3 stasis warlocks using the stasis turret aspect, and you just want to spec towards grenades. That way you can keep getting your grenade back super fast, and you just keep spamming your grenade. Just so we're clear, that's the stasis turret grenade. In terms of weapons and exotics to use, I recommend running some sort of primary grenade launcher, whether that be Wither Horde or a blinding grenade ignition code. And then one person should be running a scout rifle with anti-barrier rounds, and then the other 2 people should be running hand cannons with overload rounds. It doesn't matter who has this, but at least one person needs to have a solar scout rifle or hand cannon, because there is a couple of solar shields that crop up during the Vex Milk area. And then for heavy weapon, for people that are using Wither Horde, I recommend using either a cluster bombs or lasting impression rocket launcher. And for people that are using ignition code, I recommend using Anarchy. In terms of armor mods, I recommend running your usual ammo finders for your respective special and heavy weapons, as well as your anti-champion mods. And on top of that, I also recommend running a very basic protective light build, which I'll have a video linked in the description down below, where I kind of give an example of one that I use kind of regularly. And of course, since we're going to be using primarily grenade launchers, make sure you have breach and clear on. In terms of exotic armor, since we're all going to be warlocks here, I recommend one warlock runs Varerity's Brow, one warlock runs the Aeon Safe exotic with the sect that will allow you to finish champions for ammo. And then the 3rd warlock can run either Varerity's Brow or Boots of the Assembler, or even another Aeon Safe if they wanted. It's just kind of up to you. So now that we got our loadouts down, let's go ahead and talk about the different sections of the strike. I'm gonna sort of gloss over the first couple of sections because they're pretty damn simple and easy, but mainly we're gonna be talking about the last 2. So I guess to gloss over the first couple of sections, the first 3 boss type sections, I mean, it's pretty simple. Sit back, shoot the enemies from cover. There's nothing too crazy about it. It's like any other Grandmaster Nightfall. Then the 4th section, where you're in the giant chasm area and you're fighting the shanks and stuff. Again, sit back in cover and just kill them from a distance. It's not too hard. It's like any other Grandmaster Nightfall section. Now after that section, you'll find yourself in the Vex Milk area, where you're having to stand on the plate. This one's a pretty simple one that I see a lot of people try to speedrun, and that's something you can't do here. Do not try and speedrun this whatsoever. Just simply step on the plate, and as soon as you see enemies, then step back off and go to the backer room and just sort of pick them off. And since we're running 3 stasis warlocks, make sure you're constantly putting down those stasis turrets, because that will put pressure on the shanks that are trying to come after you, so that way you can take out the snipers. But yeah, just sort of take your time with the section, do it one ad wave at a time, and once you complete this section, you'll then have to clear the entire area of enemies. This part's pretty simple. Just take your time, shoot enemies from a distance. As I always say, in these Grandmaster Nightfalls, there's nothing special about this. Do keep in mind that there's a lot of snipers, and there's a overload champion and a barrier champion. Anyways, once you clear the section, you'll be in the boss room. One thing to keep in mind before you start the fight, obviously when you walk in, there's going to be a couple of dregs and the overload champion. Make sure you kill those. I mean, you have to kill them in order for the boss fight to start. And the other thing is, the boss fight does not start till you walk up in the center, kind of near the portal. Anyways, the whole strat with this boss fight is you're going to want to stick to the left side, because that's the side that provides the most room and also is probably the easiest to traverse compared to the right side. Anyways, starting off, you're gonna notice that there's gonna be 2 overload champions that spawn from the left and right mini portals. They're gonna come after you, and they're gonna be pretty aggressive, but they're not gonna come after you right away. Actually, first what's going to happen is that the mini Hydra boss is actually gonna come after you first, and so you're gonna wanna get that Hydra out of there right away before the overload minotaurs show up. Another very important thing to note is every time you take half of a bar off of a boss, whether that be the main boss or the mini boss Hydra, it will spawn in Vex reinforcements, and this includes 2 champions, as well as some ads. Anyways, the whole idea here is you want to get that Hydra out of there right away, because that Hydra is going to block things, which you don't really want happening. Anyways, by the time you take out the Hydra, the first 2 overload minotaurs should be showing up. You're going to want to throw down your stasis turrets, first of all, because you can keep freezing those minotaurs, and then you're going to want to try and focus fire the first 2. And by the time you finish the first 2, the second 2 should be rolling up, which again, you want to use your stasis to try and focus fire them and take them out. But after you get those last 2 champions down, then you have to get rid of the boss, which you have to take down a bar of his health, and that can be pretty tough because he does have quite a bit of health. He's a bit of a bullet sponge. I got nothing really to add here other than you're just going to have to go back and forth between whittling him down. But eventually, once you whittle down a bar of his health, then the next wave will come in, and it'll just be the mini boss Hydra along with some barrier champions and some wyverns. Now, actually, the wyverns are faster and they hit harder than the mini boss Hydra. So you're going to want to have stasis turrets. As soon as you see one walk in, you want to put those down, and you basically want to melt that wyvern. One thing to note is that the Warlock Shadebinder Super seems to be particularly effective at taking down wyverns. However, I would save the super unless you have to use it, because that ability to have a bunch of freezes on you makes it very easy to get someone up if they end up going down. But yeah, basically you want to melt through those first 2 wyverns. Be very, very cautious. They're hard hitting, like I said. They're very aggressive, but at the end of the day, they are just red bars, so they shouldn't be too difficult to take down. But yeah, by the time you take down those first 2 wyverns, the mini boss Hydra should be pulling up. One thing to note is that the barrier champions in this boss room are not aggressive whatsoever. They will not come inside the room that you're in on the left side, so you're going to leave the barrier champions for last. But anyways, once the Hydra makes it in, you're going to want to get him out of there, basically take down that bar of health. And of course, once you do that, the reinforcements will come in, and obviously more wyverns will spawn in, as well as more barrier champions. You're just going to wait for the wyverns to come on in, and you're going to want to take them down fast like you did before. And once you cleared everything except for the champions, it's now time to kill the barrier champions. Basically, everyone's going to want to hang out in that little funnel area that's sort of in the center of the left room, which you'll see me doing in the gameplay right now. And basically, everyone's going to huck down their stasis turrets, and you're going to want to try and focus fire these champions one at a time. Be very, very careful, because these barrier champions can one-hit. Ideally, you shouldn't have to break any barriers, because your stasis turrets will keep freezing them over and over again before they can even get the chance to put down the barrier. However, the person with the anti-barrier scout rifle needs to be on standby with that scout rifle, just in case the turrets cannot freeze in time. Anyways, after you slay those champions and clear the arena, you're going to enter the next phase of the fight, which the main boss is going to spawn in solo with 2 overload champions. Those overload champions are going to rush you. Be prepared to take them down quickly. And like I mentioned before, anytime you take down half of a bar of either the boss or the mini boss's health, it will spawn in the reinforcements, which comes in with 2 additional champions. Once you see Vex reinforcements down in the bottom left appear on your screen, you're going to want to stop damaging the boss and be prepared to take down some more overloads. And once you take down those overloads, of course, make sure you're using your stasis turrets. It'll make it very easy to keep stunning the overloads over and over again. But yeah, once you take them down, all you have to do is finish off the rest of that bar of the boss's health, and it will spawn into the final phase. Now, right off the bat, you're going to have to deal with not only the mini-boss Hydra, but the Wyverns at the same exact time. I recommend putting down, obviously, your stasis turret so you keep freezing the Hydra and the Wyverns, but just sort of leave the Hydra frozen and try and melt those Wyverns because they will mess you up. Also, do not worry about the champions because it's just going to be 2 barrier champions, and like I said before, they're pretty passive. They're not going to be super aggressive and rush into that corner with you. So do not worry about them till the end. But once you take down the Wyverns, you're going to want to melt the Hydra. You're going to want to do it quick because obviously once you get past that half a bar mark, it's going to spawn in more Wyverns as well as more barrier champions. You don't have to worry about the barrier champions like I said, but you do have to worry about the Wyverns because as soon as they spawn in, they're going to be speed running over to you. So be prepared to melt those as soon as they come in. But once you take down those last 2 Wyverns, you then got 2 more things to do, and that is kill the remaining barrier champions as well as the boss. Now what you want to do is up to you because you got 2 choices here. You can either try and kill the barrier champions to try and ensure that you get that platinum, or you can choose to kill the main boss and skip the champions but possibly miss out on a platinum, which gives better rewards. One of the things that you may have to do here is have one person sort of bait the boss by, just shooting at him or whatever, because one of the problems with trying to take down the barrier champions is that they like to stick to the boss, so it's very difficult to separate them. But the idea is you kind of want to have one person sort of push the boss away while the other 2 try and melt the champions one at a time. But yeah, once you've killed the champions, all you gotta do is whittle down the boss's health, and it should be essentially free at that point because no more enemies are going to spawn. And once you've killed the boss, you have cleared the Glassway Strike on Grandmaster, a very difficult thing to accomplish. Hopefully this guide should help you complete this. I definitely do not recommend whatsoever farming this strike because even with the loadout I have presented for you to use that makes it not as difficult, it still takes an insanely large amount of time. I mean, you can probably see at the end of the gameplay here, it ended up taking us about like 35-ish minutes. On top of this, the weapon for this Nightfall at the time of making this video is the Plug 1 fusion rifle, and it's not really the best gun in the world. So yeah, I only recommend doing this once and then calling it a day. Anyways, this was Asher and John. If you found the video helpful, go ahead and give a like. If you want to keep up to date on this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below whether you have completed the strike or not, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.